Okay, guys, so I'm going to be reading the document to you that goes along with this week's work and talking to you about what exactly it is you should be doing. So, your learning target is I can explain the significance of the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision. So, if you did not catch my live today, basically talking about educational rights, not having segregated schools. So I'm going to read that to you. Then this will be posted with the assignment. Okay. Title of the article, Howard Zinn, A Young People's History of the United States. So it's a textbook toward civil rights. President Harry Truman knew that the United States had to do something about race for two reasons. One reason was to calm the frustrated black people of the United States. The other reason had to do with America's image in the world. Non-white people around the world were accusing the United States of being a racist society. America's Cold War with the Soviet Union was on, and each side wanted to gain influence around the globe. But the poor civil rights record of the United States could hold it back in world politics. Truman created a committee on civil rights in 1946. The committee recommended laws against lynching and against racial discrimination. So lynching is hanging, by the way. In jobs and in voting. Congress took no action, however. Truman did order the armed forces to desegregate or end racial separation. It took 10 years, but the military finally integrated, with blacks and whites no longer separated. The nation's public schools remained segregated until courageous Southern blacks took on the Supreme Court in a series of lawsuits. In 1954, in a decision called Brown versus Board of Education, the court ordered the nation's public schools to stop the separate but equal treatment, which would have been Plessy versus Ferguson, and not having them separated by race. The court's big decision sent a message around the world. The United States government had outlawed segregation, but change came slowly. 10 years later, more than 3/4 of the school districts in the South were still segregated. So even though this court case was passed, still segregation existed in Southern states that were allowing it to happen. Because a lot of the times local governments have a little bit more power than federal governments because federal governments can't regulate so much land. So the first question is, what was the significance of the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision? Do you think this decision still impacts you today? Why or why not? So basically, you should be looking at that question. And if you refer back to my live from earlier today, it answers the question. Jaden Schaefer helped us with that. So again, if you want to refer back to my live, which will be in the announcements part of your Canvas from earlier today, it gives you the answer to that. Okay, so next reading. For blacks, progress wasn't fast enough. In the early 1960s, black people rose in rebellion all over the South. By the late 1960s, there were wild uprisings in 100 northern cities too. What triggered the angry revolt? A 43-year-old black woman named Rosa Parks sat down one day in the white section of a city bus. She had long been active in the NAACP, which was determined to challenge segregated seating on Montgomery buses. So again, Montgomery is in Alabama, so we're talking about southern areas. She was arrested. Montgomery blacks called a mass meeting. They boycotted, meaning that they protested and did not use any longer the city buses, refusing to ride. Instead, they walked or organized carpools. The city was losing a lot of income from bus fares. It arrested 100 of boycotted leaders. White segregationists turned to violence. They exploded bombs in 4 black churches. They fired a shotgun through the front door of a home of Dr. Martin Luther King, a minister who helped lead the boycott. But the black people of Montgomery kept the boycott, and in November 1956, the Supreme Court made segregation on bus lines illegal. So question 2, was Rosa Parks' method of protest for civil rights an orderly and peaceful one? Explain why or why not. So when we look at that question, we're looking at what she did, not at what the response to what they did. So the white response was pretty violent, but what she did was that violent. That's the question you're asking yourself. Is boycotting and just refusing to use something a peaceful kind of protest or a violent kind of protest? So that's the question that you're answering for that second section. So you have 2 questions this week that go along with that reading. Again, if you go into my live from earlier today, it will give you the answers to both those questions. But I just wanted to read the story to you as well. Okay, thank you.